I used to count the days. Not the missions, not the months, just the days until I could come home. Until I could see Mia again. She wrote to me every week during deployment. Photos, letters, even short clips of her smiling in that faded yellow hoodie I bought before I left. That hoodie was my anchor. Every time I saw her face, it reminded me that not everything in this world was chaos. 2 years later, I finally came home, leaner, older, maybe a little more broken, but alive. I thought she'd be at the airport, waiting with that same hoodie, crying like she promised. She wasn't there. I brushed it off. Maybe she got the time wrong, maybe traffic, I didn't want to read too much into it. I caught a cab to her apartment. It wasn't the one I'd helped her rent before I left. This one was nicer, brand new building, modern furniture, designer bags by the door. When I asked about it, she smiled a little too quickly. I moved up in the world, Ethan. Got a better job. Marketing stuff. Marketing. Sure. I wanted to believe her. I really did. The first night felt weird. She was distant, nervous. Every time her phone buzzed, she'd flip it face down. When I tried to hug her, she said she was tired. The second night, she said she had to work late. The third night, she came home at 2 a.m. with perfume that wasn't hers. But she still called me baby. She still cooked my favorite pasta. She still laughed when I told stories from the barracks. So I told myself to stop overthinking. Maybe she'd changed, or maybe I just wasn't used to civilian life anymore. Maybe I was paranoid. Soldiers are trained to look for threats, even when there aren't any. Still, the cracks showed. She had new clothes. Designer ones. New phone, new laptop, new car. When I asked where the money came from, she said, influencer deals. Don't worry about it. I tried not to. Until one night, I couldn't sleep. My mind was loud, replaying everything. I got up, grabbed my phone, and opened Instagram. I typed in her username, the same one she'd used for years. Her account was private now. The profile picture was just a black heart emoji. I scrolled down the suggested profiles, similar names, same city, and then I found something. Mia Ray _exclusive. At first, I thought it was a fan page. Then I opened it. And there she was. My girlfriend, or at least the version of her that used to be mine, posing in lingerie, in hotel rooms, in someone's car. The captions had emojis and cryptic phrases, but the links in her bio told the truth. An exclusive content site. Subscription-based. Custom requests available. I froze. I just stared at the screen for what felt like forever. My heart was pounding like it used to before a firefight. I couldn't breathe. I clicked one of the comments, some guy saying, best in town, worth every cent. My stomach turned. I wanted to throw up, scream, punch something, but all I did was sit there, silent, watching the girl I'd loved turn into a stranger in real time. I didn't confront her that night. I just sat on the couch until the sun came up. When she walked out of the bedroom, she looked perfect, hair done, coffee in hand, phone in her other hand like nothing was wrong. She kissed my cheek and said, "You look tired, babe." I was tired of pretending everything was fine. Later that day, I drove around town, same old streets, same gas station, same burger joint we used to go to after school. Everything was the same, except her. Except us. When I got back to her apartment, she wasn't home. But her laptop was. I shouldn't have looked. I know that. But love and pain make you do things you swore you'd never do. Her messages were open. Conversations with clients. Bookings. Hotel receipts. Rates. I slammed the laptop shut and sat back, trying to figure out what was worse, that she'd done it, or that she hadn't told me. That while I was out there counting days, she'd been counting prices. When she came home, I asked her where she'd been. Work, she said. I asked, marketing again? She nodded, too fast. Then I told her what I'd seen. The silence that followed was so thick it felt like the air had weight. Her eyes flickered, searching my face for how much I knew. Then, finally, she spoke. Ethan, you don't understand. I had to survive. I didn't yell. I didn't move. I just stood there, listening to my heart crack like dry wood. She kept talking, about rent, about loneliness, about how she didn't mean for it to happen. That it was temporary, that it was empowering, that it was better than waiting tables. But all I heard was noise. Because somewhere between the desert and home, I'd lost the version of her I loved. And maybe, she'd lost the version of herself too. When someone you love lies to you, the hardest part isn't the lie itself. It's the hope that maybe, just maybe, they'll tell the truth if you give them one more chance. That night after I confronted Mia, I couldn't even look at her. She sat on the couch, wiping her tears, saying she only did it a few times, that it wasn't like that, I don't sleep with them, Ethan, I just talk. Talk. Right. Half-naked photos, private sessions, hotel bookings, just talking. I wanted to scream, but instead I asked quietly, "Then why the hotels?" She looked down. "They pay more for privacy." Something inside me broke right there, not loud, not dramatic. Just a quiet, clean snap. Still, I didn't leave. I don't know why. Maybe because soldiers don't abandon their posts. Maybe because I didn't want to face the truth, that I'd been replaced, not by another man, but by money. For the next few days, I stayed. We acted like nothing happened. She deleted accounts, promised to stop, said she'd look for a normal job. I believed her, or at least tried to. We ate dinner together, watched old movies, even laughed once or twice. But something was gone. The trust, the simplicity, the us part of us. Every buzz of her phone felt like a punch. Every time she said, "I love you," I heard, "I'm lying." One night, I woke up around midnight and saw her standing on the balcony, phone to her ear, whispering. When she noticed me, she froze. "Who was that?" I asked. "My cousin." "Relax. You don't have a cousin named Aaron." Silence. Then anger. She accused me of spying, of being controlling. Said the army messed me up and that I needed therapy. Maybe she was right, but not for the reason she thought. I didn't sleep after that. I just lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to her breathing beside me, wondering how someone can sleep so peacefully after shattering another person's soul. A week later, I decided I needed to know the truth, not her version, not excuses. The truth. She said she had a networking dinner. Wore a black dress I'd never seen before, with heels that could cut glass. I told her she looked nice. She smiled like everything was fine. An hour after she left, I followed. Old habits die hard. She wasn't hard to find, bright car, same perfume, same lies. I parked across from the hotel, engine off, lights out. At 9:15 p.m., a silver Mercedes pulled up. A man in a suit stepped out, opened her door, and she slid into his passenger seat like it was routine. My heart pounded so hard I thought I'd blow my cover. They drove off. I tailed them for a few blocks until they turned into another hotel, fancier this time. He handed his keys to the valet, put his arm around her waist. She laughed. Not the forced laugh she gave me these days. The real one, the one that used to make me forget every bad thing in the world. And that's when it hit me. I wasn't watching my girlfriend cheat. I was watching a stranger perform. Like she'd become someone else completely, and the version I loved had been erased frame by frame. I didn't follow them inside. I didn't need to. I just sat there in the car until my hands stopped shaking. When I got home, the apartment smelled like her perfume. On the table was a note. "Don't wait up. Love you." The next morning she came back humming, like she'd just been to brunch with friends. She brought me coffee, kissed my cheek, asked if I slept well. That was the moment I realized denial hurts harder than betrayal, because it keeps you chained to a ghost. 2 days later, I told her I was leaving. No fight, no yelling. Just a quiet, "I can't do this anymore." She looked confused. Maybe she thought she still had me wrapped around her finger. "Ethan, please. Don't throw us away. I can stop. I will stop." But she didn't cry this time. Maybe she was tired of pretending too. I packed my bag, took one last look at the girl who'd once been my whole world, and walked out. On the way down the stairs, she called after me. "You weren't here. You left me. What was I supposed to do?" I stopped halfway down, turned, and said, "You were supposed to wait. Or at least, be honest when you couldn't." Her face twisted, shame, anger, guilt, maybe all of it at once. Then she slammed the door. That night, I slept in my old truck behind a mechanic shop I used to work at in high school. The seat was torn, the air was cold, but for the first time in months, I actually slept. The next morning, I started working there again, fixing engines, changing oil, keeping busy. Manual work felt good. Honest. Real. Each wrench turn, each scrape on my knuckles reminded me I was still here, still alive, still mine. Days turned into weeks. The pain dulled, replaced by a strange kind of peace. But I still thought about her, not with anger, but with disbelief. How easily love can rot when you stop watering it with honesty. One evening, while scrolling through my phone, I saw her name again, trending locally on some gossip page. Someone had leaked her exclusive profile. Comments flooded in. Screenshots, videos, names. It was public now. I didn't click. I didn't need to. I just put my phone down and whispered. Guess the world finally found out what I already knew. There's a kind of silence that feels heavier than noise. That's what my life became after Mia. Quiet days at the garage. Oil-stained hands. Metal, engines, sweat. No drama. No lies. Just work. The first month after I left her, I barely talked to anyone. The guys at the shop tried to ask about my time in the army, but I wasn't ready to tell stories. I was still learning how to exist in a world that wasn't uniformed, timed, and armed. The pain didn't hit all at once, it came in waves. In the morning, I'd feel fine. By noon, I'd remember her laugh. By night, I'd remember what she did. I didn't want revenge. Not yet. What I wanted was control, over myself, over my thoughts, over the way her memory invaded my peace. So I built a routine. Wake up early. Run 3 miles. Work till sundown. Eat. Sleep. Repeat. But pain, if you don't bury it, eventually turns into something else. For me, it became purpose. One night, a guy from work, Nate, said, "Man, you should post some of your army stories online. TikTok loves that stuff." I laughed. No one wants to hear about MREs and sand. He shrugged. Not the sand part. The human part. What it does to you. So I did. One night after my shift, I filmed a short clip sitting in my truck. Just me, talking about how coming home was harder than deployment, because out there, you knew who the enemy was. I didn't expect much. But the next morning, the video had 30,000 views. People commented things like, "This hit hard. I came home to an empty house too. Thank you for saying what we can't." Something clicked. I wasn't alone. Neither were they. I started posting more. Short reflections, advice, raw stuff. I didn't mention Mia, not directly. I didn't have to. People felt the heartbreak in my tone. My followers grew fast. 10K, 50K, 200K. Then came interviews, podcast invites, sponsorships. For once, the internet wasn't toxic, it was healing. The more I shared, the more I understood her words that night. You weren't here. She was right. I wasn't. I was fighting wars while she was losing one of her own. But the difference is, I didn't sell my soul to survive mine. Months passed. One evening after work, I was closing the garage when a message popped up on my phone. "Mia. I saw your videos. You're doing so well. I'm proud of you." My stomach tightened. I didn't know if it was anger, nostalgia, or pity. She sent another. "Can we talk?" Just once. For closure. I didn't respond that night. I sat in my truck, thinking. The part of me that once loved her wanted to meet. The other part, the part that had rebuilt itself from ashes, wanted to leave the message unread. But closure is tricky. If you don't face it, it keeps haunting you. So I texted back. "Tomorrow. 7 p.m. Diner on 5th. It was where we had our first date. Back then, I couldn't stop smiling around her. This time, I wasn't sure I'd even look her in the eyes. The next day, before heading there, I made a call. A friend from my content team, the one who helped me shoot my motivational clips. I asked him to bring a camera and record the meeting discreetly. Not for revenge, not for humiliation, but for truth. Because I wanted people to see what real closure looks like. Not shouting, not begging, just two people sitting across from the grave of what used to be love. When I walked into the diner, she was already there. Mia looked different. Thinner, older, tired. The kind of tired that makeup can't hide. She smiled faintly when she saw me. "Hey," she said. "Hey," I replied. The small talk didn't last. She started crying before the waitress even took our order. "I messed up, Ethan. I was scared. Lonely. I didn't know how to wait for you." Everything spiraled. I listened. Really listened. No interruptions. She talked about how things had gotten worse after the leaks. How people she thought were friends had turned on her. How she was trying to start over but couldn't escape the shadow of her choices. "You hate me, don't you?" she whispered. I shook my head. "No. I don't hate you, Mia. I just don't recognize you anymore." That broke her more than yelling ever could. I told her I'd forgiven her, not because she deserved it, but because I needed peace. Because dragging her ghost into my new life would only poison what I'd built. She asked if we could start over. I said no. "You were my home once," I said, "but some houses burn down and you don't rebuild on the ashes." She cried quietly. I finished my coffee. The camera caught everything, not the drama, but the quiet truth between two people who used to mean everything to each other. When I left, she stayed seated, staring out the window. Maybe at me. Maybe at her reflection. The video went live 2 weeks later. Titled, "Soldier Forgives His Ex, but Doesn't Take Her Back." It hit 10 million views in 3 days. People called me brave, kind, heartless, wise, whatever fit their own stories. But I didn't care. For me, that video wasn't revenge. It was release. When the video hit 1 million views, I thought the anger would follow. Hers, mostly. Or maybe mine again. But nothing happened. No calls. No threats. No drama. Just silence. For the first time in years, silence didn't hurt. It felt clean. People kept messaging me, veterans, single moms, broken men, heartsick teenagers. They all saw a piece of themselves in that diner clip. One guy wrote, "You showed that strength isn't yelling. Sometimes it's just leaving quietly." That line stayed with me. I kept making videos, not about her, but about healing. About how pain isn't supposed to define you, it's supposed to teach you. Brands reached out. Podcasts invited me. My channel crossed 1 million followers. But fame didn't feel like revenge. It felt like recovery. Still, deep down, I knew the story wasn't over, not for her, and not for me. One rainy night, about 3 months after the video went viral, I got a message request on Instagram. Her again. I saw the clip. "I'm not mad. You were honest. I started therapy. Thank you for not destroying me completely." I read it 3 times. Then I typed back, "You destroyed yourself, Mia. I just stopped pretending I didn't see it." Then I deleted the chat. Closure doesn't always mean forgiveness. Sometimes it just means the door finally clicks shut. Life moved forward. The garage turned into a small business. I hired other vets, guys who needed purpose more than paychecks. We fixed cars, swapped stories, rebuilt each other quietly. And every morning before opening shop, I looked in the mirror and said, "You survived both kinds of wars. The ones with bullets. And the ones with promises." 6 months after the video, a journalist wanted to do a follow-up piece. "Where is Mia now?" she asked. I said I didn't know. And that was the truth. I hadn't searched her name once. I didn't want to. The journalist still found out. Apparently, Mia had moved states, started volunteering at a women's shelter, trying to rebuild her life away from the city. When I read that, I didn't feel smug satisfaction. I just nodded and whispered, "Good." Because maybe, in some twisted way, both of us had to lose each other to find ourselves. A few weeks later, I was speaking at a veterans event, a small auditorium, about 50 people. At the end, a woman approached me. She had dark hair tied back, eyes tired but kind. She said, "Your story saved my brother. He was going to end things after his divorce. He said your video made him get up again." I smiled, shook her hand, and realized something. Every wound I had ever carried had turned into someone else's map out of the dark. That's what peace really is. Not forgetting, transforming. That night, after the event, I walked home under a sky so clear it looked almost unreal. I passed the diner, the same one from the video. It was half empty, lights warm, rain streaking the windows. I thought about going in, sitting at that same booth, ordering the same coffee. Instead, I just stood outside for a moment, watching a young couple laugh inside. They looked happy. The kind of simple, unguarded happy that used to scare me, because it can disappear overnight. But I didn't envy them anymore. I just hoped they'd never have to learn the lessons I did. Later that night, lying in bed, I scrolled through my old photos, before the army, before the war, before her. I found one picture, me and Mia at the beach, arms around each other, no filters, no lies. For a second, I missed that version of us. Then I realized something important. You can miss what you had without wanting it back. So I pressed delete. Not out of hate. Out of gratitude. Because some memories aren't meant to be kept, they're meant to teach. A few days later, my editor sent me the title for the next video. The army taught me how to survive war. She taught me how to survive peace. It wasn't revenge content. It wasn't pity. It was truth. I filmed it in one take, dim lighting, quiet voice, no background music. Just honesty. I said, if you ever loved someone who broke you, thank them. Because they showed you what you'll never accept again. Because surviving heartbreak isn't weakness, it's proof you can rebuild from ashes and still be kind. When I finished recording, I sat there in silence. No tears this time. No shaking hands. Just stillness. A week after posting it, I received a handwritten letter. No return name. Inside, a single line. I hope you finally found peace. I think I'm starting to. I didn't need to wonder who sent it. I just folded it, placed it in a drawer, and smiled. Because maybe, for the first time, we both did.